Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
Oh, I am feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things very rarely go together.
Oh, my. You are smart, aren't you?
I'm always smart, am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for development, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we're a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband died. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Yes, of course, Aunt Augusta.
Gwendolyn, won't you come and sit here, dear?
Thank you, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Good heavens, Lane. Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them especially.
There were no cucumbers at the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Aunt Augusta, I am incredibly distressed at there being no cucumbers at the market. Not even for ready money.
Oh, it really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure these days.
Yes, I have heard her hair has turned quite gold from grief.
Well, it certainly has changed its colour, but from what cause I, of course, cannot say. Oh, I have quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. Oh, thank you, dear. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farker. Oh, she's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, that I'm going to have to give up pleasure with you tonight after all.
Oh, I hope that's not the case, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he's quite accustomed to that.
It is a terrible bore and needlessly say a huge disappointment to me, but I have just received a telegram about my poor friend Bunbury. Seems he's ill again. They want me to be with him or something.
It's very strange, Algernon, but this Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a terrible invalid.
Well, I must say, I think it's high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. All this shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of this modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take any notice as far as any improvement in his own ailment goes. But Algernon, I would be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury from me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It's my last reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has practically said whatever it was they had to say, which in most cases was probably not very much.
Yes, I'll have a word to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious. But I think I can quite honestly say I think he'll be okay by Saturday. The music, however, has been a great difficulty for me. You see, if I play good music, then nobody will listen. And if I play bad music, then nobody will talk. However, I will run over the program I've drawn out for you if you would kindly join me in the next room a moment.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Very thoughtful, Algernon. I'm sure the program will be quite delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think they are improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed I believe it to be so. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me?
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. That makes me so nervous.
But I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolen, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have ever met. Since I met you.
Yes, I am quite well aware of the fact, and I often wish that in public, at any rate, you'd be more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and has reached the provincial pulpits, I am told. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Ernest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment Elton first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you.
Gwendolen, you really love me?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But you don't mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest?
But your name is Ernest.
Yes. Of course it is. But supposing it were something else. You don't mean to say you couldn't love me then?
Ah, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, I don't much care for the name of Ernest. I don't think the name suits me at all.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, Gwendolen, I think there are lots of other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance. A charming name?
Jack? No. No, there is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for the name John, and I pity any woman married to a man called John, who would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. No, the only really safe name is Ernest.
Gwendolen, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must be married at once. There is no time to be lost.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, surely. I love you, and you led me to believe you are not entirely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject hasn't even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolen!
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolen, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long have you been about it? I'm afraid you've had very little experience in how to propose.
Well, my own one, you are the only one I've ever loved.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald often does. All my girlfriends tell me so. My, what wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They're quite blue. I hope you'll always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing! Pray rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent position. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing hasn't quite finished yet.
Finished what, might I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, but you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, either I or your father, should his health permit, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come upon a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, as the case may be. It is hardly a matter that she should be allowed to decide for herself. And now, Mr. Worthing, I have a few questions to put to you. Whilst I am making my inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, Gwendolen. Gwendolen, the carriage!
Yes, Mamma!
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, although I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Bolton. We work together, in fact. However, I am quite prepared to add your name should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
Oh, a very good age to be married at. I have always been of the opinion that a man who desires to be married should know either everything or nothing. What do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like an exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes and would probably lead to acts of violence in Grosvenor Square. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investment?
In investments, chiefly.
Oh, that is satisfactory. What with the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death, land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. Gives one position, but prevents one from keeping it up. That's all that can be said about land.
I do have a country house, with some land, of course, attached to it. About 1,500 acres, I believe. But I don't depend on that for my real income. In fact, as far as I can make out, the poachers are the only people who make anything out of it.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Oh, well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen can hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I have a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to a Lady Bloxham. Of course, I can get it back whenever I like at 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? I don't know her.
She goes about very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in years.
Nowadays, that is absolutely no guarantee of respectability of character. What number, Belgrave Square?
149.
Oh, the unfashionable side. I thought there would be something. However, that can easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Well, both, if necessary, I presume. What are your politics?
Well, I'm afraid I really have none, Lady Bracknell. I am a Liberal. Unionist?
Oh, they count as Tories. They dine with us, or at least come in the evening, at any rate. And now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I am afraid I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? He was evidently a man of some wealth. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple of commerce, or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
Well, the fact is, Lady Bracknell, I don't actually know. The truth is, I said I had lost my parents. It would be truer to say my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an elderly gentleman of a very kind and charitable disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he had a first-class ticket for Worthing at the time.
Where did this charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket to this seaside resort Worthing find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was in a handbag. A rather large, brown, leather handbag with handles to it. A perfectly ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I must confess that I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. And I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As to the particular locality in which the handbag was found, the cloakroom in a railway station might serve to conceal a social indiscretion, has probably indeed been used for such a purpose in the past, but it can hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a good position in society.
Well, I should certainly like to know what you would advise me to do, Lady Bracknell. I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, sir, to acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite attempt to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't see how I can possibly manage to do that, Lady Bracknell. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in the dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it got to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I or Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. Oh, for goodness sake, Algie, don't play that ghastly tune! How idiotic you are!
Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say that Gwendolyn refused you, do you? Oh, I know it is the way she has. She's always refusing me, but I think it quite ill-natured of her, really.
Gwendolyn is as right as a trivet. As far as she is concerned, we are already engaged. Her mother, on the other hand, is perfectly unbearable. Never met such a gorgon. I don't quite know what a gorgon is like, but I'm quite sure she is one. In any case, she is a monster without being a myth, which is rather unfair. Oh, I beg your pardon, Algie. I suppose I shouldn't talk about your own relations in that way before you.
Oh, no, I love hearing my relations abused. It's the only thing that allows me to put up with them in the first place. You see, relations are just a tedious pack of people who haven't the smallest knowledge on how to live, or the remotest instinct on when to die.
That is nonsense.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm not going to argue about the matter. You always want to argue about things.
Yes, well, that is exactly what things were originally made for.
Upon my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. You don't suppose there is any chance of Gwendolyn becoming like her mother in about 150 years?
all women become like their mothers. That's their tragedy. No man ever does, though. That's his.
Is that clever?
It is perfectly phrased and quite true, like any observation in civilized life should be.
I am sick to death of cleverness. Everybody is clever nowadays. One can't go anywhere without meeting clever people. The thing has become an absolute public nuisance. I really wish we had a few fools left.
Oh, we have.
Well, I should certainly like to meet them. What do they talk about?
Oh, the fools. Clever people, of course.
Oh, what fools?
Yes, well, you did get around to telling Gwendolen about your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country, didn't you?
Oh, my dear fellow, the truth is not something one tells to a sweet, simple, innocent girl like Gwendolen. What strange ideas you have about the way to behave towards women.
The only way to behave towards a woman is to make love to her if she is pretty, and to someone else if she is plain.
Oh, that is nonsense.
Yes, well, what of your brother? What of the profligate Ernest?
Oh, by the end of the week I shall have got rid of him. I shall say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy quite suddenly, don't they?
Yes, but it's hereditary. You know, the sort of thing that would run in your family. You had much better say he died of a severe chill.
You are sure a severe chill isn't hereditary or anything of that kind?
Of course not. Oh.
Very well then. My poor brother Ernest to be carried off suddenly by a severe chill. And that gets rid of him.
Yes, but what of your ward? What of Miss Cardew? Didn't you say she was a little too much interested in your poor brother? Won't she feel his loss a great deal?
Oh, Cecily is not a silly, romantic girl, I am pleased to say. No, she has a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
Yes, I should like to meet this Cecily.
I shall take very good care to ensure you never do. She is excessively pretty, and only just 18.
Yes, and have you told Gwendolen that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
My dear fellow, that is not the sort of thing one blurts out to people. No. Gwendolen and Cecily are perfectly certain to become very great friends. I predict within half an hour they will be calling each other sister.
Women only call each other that after they have called each other a great many other things first. Now, if we want to get a good seat at Willis's, we really must be going. Did you know it's nearly 7?
It's always nearly 7.
Yes, well, I'm hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Go to a theatre?
Oh no, I loathe listening.
Well, shall we to the club then?
Oh no, I hate talking.
Well, we could trot down to the Empire at 10, huh?
Oh no, I don't like looking at things. It's so silly.
Well then, what do you suppose we do?
Nothing.
Well, it is very hard work doing nothing. But I'm not against a spot of hard work, especially when there's no definite object in any mind.
Miss Fairfax!
Gwendolen! Upon my word.
Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
I don't think I can quite allow this, actually.
Algy, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You're not quite old enough to do that. Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I ever had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and although I may marry someone else, and marry often, nothing she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Dear Gwendolen.
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma, with unpleasing comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibres of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Wolford, Hertfordshire.
There is a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. That, of course, will require serious consideration. I shall communicate with you daily.
My own one.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Good, good. LG, you may turn around now.
Oh, thank you. But I've already turned around.
You may also ring the bell.
You'll allow me to see you to your carriage, Gwendolen?
Certainly.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Yes, sir.
glass of sherry, Lane?
Yes, sir.
Lane, I think tomorrow I'm going bumbering.
Yes, sir.
I may not be back till Monday, so pack my dress shirts, my smoking jacket, and, well, all the Bunbury suits, really.
Yes, sir.
Oh, Lane, I hope it will be a fine day tomorrow.
It never is, sir.
Oh, Lane, you are the perfect pessimist.
I do my best to give satisfaction, sir.
Now there's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever cared for in all my life. What are you so amused at?
Oh, me? I'm just a little apprehensive of my poor friend Bunbury, I think.
If you don't take care, your friend Bunbury will get you into a serious scrape one day.
Oh, I do love scrapes. They are the only things that are never serious.
That is nonsense. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.